Hello, hello. Another episode, another day, and another beautiful guest today. We have Melissa Lapides. She's licensed marriage and family therapist and trauma coach. And we're going to talk about great stuff.
Yes.
As you know, lots of couple are separated because they cannot communicate and they cannot conflict. They cannot resolve their conflict. So, here with Melissa, we're gonna dig into it and see how we can help and how they can resolve their marriage issues, their relationship issues, and how we can have a better life.
hmm
Thanks for being here, Melissa. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, tell me about yourself. What is your
Mhm.
background? I mean, your education background, and why did you end up helping people with marriage relationship problem? And I know you also help other clients with other kind of traumas, but
Mhm.
because you're a licensed marriage therapist, tell me how you do it. Why did you end up to doing this?
Yeah. So, my background is in integrative psychology. So, really incorporating mind, body, spirit practices. And then I got licensed as a marriage and family therapist. And what I realized is that every issue that people have stems from something in their family of origin that's happened in the relationship with their family. And so it's for me, relational trauma is underneath every single kind of mental illness because the way that we relate to the world and relate to other human beings comes from the way that we had to relate in our family. And what I mean by that is that we have to learn how to show up in order to be loved and accepted into our family. And in doing that, we often sacrifice parts of ourselves that aren't allowed. They're not valued. They're not something that we can be accepted for. So we push those things down and we create these ways of being in relationship to ourselves, to others, to the world that are actually inauthentic and coming from the root of that relational trauma. And so I love trauma and everything trauma because I believe it's at the core of everything.
Actually, uh, love, if you go to Maslow hierarchy, love is one of the most important needs. After survival needs, you need to be loved and love others. And I see a lot of successful people in their careers, but because they don't have a good family relationship, they don't have really good connected partner. So they are all not really great. You can see apparently they have a great job, but inside they feel depressed and they have a lot of traumas. Trauma in one side is good because sometimes it's a warning to us. And
Mhm.
sometimes we need to rebuild our future or life based on the trauma we already had, and we have to process that trauma.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying. And I think that, it is an opportunity. When we notice that we have this trauma, there's always an opportunity to grow ourselves bigger. And like you said, just because somebody has success in one area, very often that success could be created as a mechanism to run away from the trauma that's too hard to face. And so just because somebody's successful, and I work with a lot of seven-figure earners, that's mostly who I see in my private practice. And oftentimes that success has come out of the flight mechanism. They're flying away, right? from what they don't want to face inside. And then they create these amazing businesses and companies, but it was created so that they could feel something that they don't know how to actually embody inside. And each level of success, they get that feeling, but it's circumstantial, it's not sustainable. And so at some point, that kind of person will realize, wait a second, I'm not keeping this feeling. It's not what I thought it was going to be. What's going on, right?
You describe it very well. I love the way you describe it. We actually need to create a safer space, as your program said. Safer space in our heart. Since the beginning, a baby in the womb needs the safest space. If she doesn't have this space, she's not going to born. So if the mother encounters some trauma, baby can feel it in the womb. And that's why lots of miscarriages happen. As a fertility coach, I'm saying. And then that comes to your life. You are born, and then you have childhood traumas. Even if you pass it, you feel that you pass it, but you still have it in your heart. You will be triggered sometime in your life in different occasions. And so it's so important how we can encounter traumas, and why do we have this relationship problem, and if we can't resolve it, still we don't feel happy.
Yeah. And the thing about the relationship trauma is it's always mirroring. A relationship is our biggest mirror. We could sit on a hill and meditate and learn a lot about ourselves, but we learn even more about ourselves when we're in relationship with others. And so if we have this relationship as a mirror and it's chaotic or it's frustrating or it's filled with anger and hate, we need to look at, okay, what's going on inside of me? Because there's always two people in the relationship. And what happens is you're mirroring and triggering each other's traumas all the time. And you have a choice in relationship to either be aware of each other's traumas and be supportive and help one another to really move past the relational trauma that each other has, or you could keep in a war. It's like your trauma against their trauma, and they're constantly at war. And so it really takes two people being absolutely willing to own what's theirs, because everybody has some kind of relational trauma. And if you're not aware of it, it's over here in the middle of the two of you, and it's constantly keeping you apart. So when you become aware of what's going on in that space in between, and you both take responsibility for what's yours to clean up, and you begin to work as a team instead of as two people against each other, then you can start to move through the stuff that's there in a way that's cooperative instead of combative.
Actually, in a lot of couples life, you see, especially when they have kids, sometimes the trauma going between them, they don't resolve it until they can't tolerate it, and then they separate, unfortunately. And I see it a lot. I've seen it a lot, and kids are gonna suffer in this relationship mostly. If there was a third person who interfere and help them, maybe those relationship never separated, right? What are the three most important tips you can give couples who are struggling with relationship trauma?
Yeah. Number one would be to look at your part. look at and be responsible for your part, because it's not just a blame game. Each person has a part. So look at what's yours. Own the part that's yours. So that's number one. Number two is commit to growing in yourself, not just in the relationship, around that part that you have. So, really, you have to both be devoted to your own self growth and self awareness. And then, third, learn communication skills, because if you're not able to communicate in a healthy way, you'll never build those bridges that need to be built. And instead, you'll build walls and you'll throw bombs at each other. And that's a recipe for disaster. So I would say own what's yours. Number one, be devoted to your own personal growth and the growth of the couple. And then learn healthy communication skills. Those three things are all necessary.
I see communication for some people are not really easy. That is not easy to communicate when you still have lots of conflicts. So what happened, they sit to talk, and then one part say, no, I'm not going to talk about this, because it's not really hard, it's not really easy to take everything to surface and dig into it. So how can we, like, what is this communication style? Give them some tips, because as I said, it's not really, when you have a lot of fights, when you have a lot of conflicts, it's not really easy. Suddenly you say, okay, let's just talk. I see at the end of the day, you're going to fight again.
Right. So, number one, you have to, again, instead of blame or shame the other person, say what you're feeling. And a feeling that I feel like you're being a jerk. A feeling is, what are you actually feeling? What are you feeling? When your partner does something, how does that make you feel? Not what do you think about them, but you have to be responsible and use I statements. Feel instead of pointing the finger. So that's one tip in communication that I always suggest to couples is responsible communication. No blaming, no shaming, talking in I statements, and then listening is just as important as speaking. There's nothing more connective and intimate than to be truly seen and heard and validated. This is how we create emotional intimacy. So when one person's speaking to the other, it's really important to just first, before you say anything, reflect back to them what you just heard. I heard that you're feeling really sad when I come home late from work. I hear that you feel angry when I don't pick up the dishes. So instead of getting defensive, repeat back what you hear. And that's called reflective listening.
I see there are lots of styles here. Communication is not, it's a very complicated matter. I mean, it's not easy. And especially for some people are not really comfortable to communicate about different things. But what about creating a ritual, creating a ritual for communication? Let's say daily ritual, talking for 5-10 minutes. Because I see after some time living together, some people don't want to communicate. They just pass through the day, they go to work, come back. And these days, it's COVID, people have to communicate.
Yes. That's why there's lots of divorce happening.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so this is the two sides of the coin. Some people get stronger because they have more time to spend together, and some people get divorced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important that you make time to communicate, because again, that's intimacy. Intimacy is not just about sex. It's about that connection, and the way that we connect is through communicating. through knowing what's happening inside the other person. That is intimacy. It's allowing somebody to see what's going on inside of you. And so, this language of intimacy, healthy communication, nobody teaches us this stuff in school. We just learn from our parents. And like you said earlier on, like, what did you say? It's like a lot of people don't know how to do this. We don't have role models. And this stuff gets passed on generationally. So if your parents didn't know how to communicate, and that's the only reference that you have for communication, you take that and it becomes transgenerational, that way of communicating. And so, unfortunately, we need to question what we've learned, how we've learned to communicate, because people think that the way they communicate is how communicating is supposed to be. But 9 out of 10 times when I see clients, they have no idea what the parameters of healthy communication really is. And I can say even for myself, I never learned that as a child. I learned angry, fighting, because that's what I saw in my house. I thought that was how we communicate, but that's not healthy.
I think we are disconnected for a
Oh,
few seconds. Yeah, you said that was anger. That's what you see in your family, and then what did you say later?
yeah. And who's teaching this to us? Who's teaching us? We don't have a class when we get to school that's called healthy communication. From the time that we're little, we're only disciplined and taught if something goes wrong, but nobody's teaching us how to do it in a healthy way. And so we really don't have role models, examples, education, and healthy communication is a whole new language for most human beings. It's like learning another language.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. So I saw you have a program called SafeSpace,
Yes,
Safe
it's called
Trauma Healing.
SafeSpace.
Yes. Why SafeSpace, and what do you do with the program?
Yeah. So safe space is because it's my mission to create safe spaces for people to be able to heal. And it's also my mission for people to create a safe space inside of themselves. Most humans don't feel safe, and that's trauma. When we don't feel safe inside, we're living in survival mode. And when you really start to observe where you're operating from, most people are operating from survival, not from safety. And so my course is about teaching people how to dismantle whatever traumas they have inside of themselves and create safety from the inside out, to teach healthy communication, and then to help people understand how to help other people do the same thing.
So this course is for therapists, I mean coaches, or just for
Everybody. I want
everybody?
everybody to take this class. I have some medical professionals. I have a lot of coaches, a lot of mental health professionals. I would love to see teachers, doctors. Everybody needs this class. I'm not kidding.
Yes, right. Because everything starts with your mind. As you see, you have a license in holistic medicine, right?
Mhm.
And these days, interviewing so many people, especially health practitioners, medical doctors, and everybody believe to create the safest space in your heart and to have a better life. Because even for healing, if you don't feel safe inside, you end up having a lot of chronic disease, a lot of problems. And when I talk to my fertility clients, I see some of them have trauma in childhood.
Mhm.
So medication cannot treat these traumas. That's you to start healing from yourself, like inside, think about why do you have this trauma, where it's rooted, and how you can treat it. So somehow you have to process it. And
Mhm.
maybe you have some trauma in your relationship, and then I see some people still have lots of arguments with their partner, and they want to have a kid, and they think that their relationship gonna be better if they have kids. But
Yeah.
believe me, it's not gonna be better. As you
Yeah.
see, we have this licensed marriage here, and I'm telling you, no, it's not gonna be better, because um, when you have the third person involved who needs more attention, then you probably don't get the same attention from your partner. And then it's gonna end up more arguments, more problem, and more issues.
Yeah. And it also, when you have a new baby, you feel more dysregulated in
Exactly.
in life in general, because you're now waking up, the baby's crying, and so you're more on edge. So whatever is already there is actually going to get magnified. It's a real common belief to have a baby and things will get better, and it's quite the contrary. It's going to magnify the issues that are already there, because you are more on edge. You're more sensitive after you have a baby. So it's definitely not a solution to heal trauma. And like you said, neither is medication. Medication may be necessary to start to do the work if you're so dysregulated that you can't process, which I see a lot. And there's nothing wrong with medication if you're also doing the inner work. A medication alone is not going to help you move past your trauma. You have to be an active participant in your healing. The medication can help you do that, but it's not going to take your trauma away.
No, never.
No.
And I always say mess creates more stress. Like if you have a 2-year-old, 3-year-old that I have, nothing in this house is mine. Only this room, and that's it. All the drawers, everything. She has access to everywhere. Bef-
Mm-hmm.
before having her, everything was in place and everything organized. I didn't have to clean everything every day. But now,
Mm-hmm.
even if I clean up 2-3 times a day, it still is not enough. that
No.
that's happening for relationship. You need to be disciplined, and sometimes you need to clear your mess, because mess creates stress. And then you're gonna be disconnected from your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need to see what is between you, if something needs to clear up, because sometimes we hide a lot of things in our heart. We don't talk about a lot of things that are very important, and after years, then everything is gonna be appear, and it's not the right time. That time is so late. So, yeah, so if you have a relationship right now that is messy, you need to organize it. Maybe you need to talk to third person to see what is your problem, because sometimes we don't see what we have. Maybe if we analyze them on the paper and talk to each other, maybe it's a great idea. But sometimes talking to each other is not is not healing, because you need to learn how to communicate, right?
Yeah, and unpack that mess, like you're saying. When you're talking from a mess, you're making more of a mess usually, right? You need to talk from a clean space so that you can make a cleaner relationship, but a mess just perpetuates more mess. So you definitely don't want to talk from that messy space, or it's just going to get worse.
Yes, so even if you want to have a kid, you want to have a baby, and clean your relationship believe me, you need to clean your relationship before having the baby, because it
Yeah,
needs more patience. So you need to create that safe space for having the baby, create something uh, from your heart, and not because you need to be a mom or a father.
that's right.
Yes. All right. Do you have any other recommendation, especially during this COVID time?
Yeah. Yeah. Just make sure that you hold yourself with love. When you do notice that you have trauma or that there are things in your life, messes that need to be cleaned up, it doesn't help to judge yourself about it. The most the most loving thing that you could do for yourself is to have compassion for yourself. Like I always go, "Oh, honey, this is really hard," right? And hold yourself from a loving place because it's going to help clean up the mess so much faster. I always say, think about it like a little kid falls off a bike. And if you were like, "Oh my God, are you stupid?" Or if you said, "Oh, honey, that must have hurt. How are they going to get back up and learn faster," right? With love and compassion. So we have to be really compassionate with ourselves and normalize the fact that everybody has some kind of something, right? Everybody has a mess of some sort. And so just be loving and gentle with yourself with the mess that you have.
Yes. And another thing I'm going to add is that you are not faulty. Nothing is your fault. Like, don't think that all the burden of the relationship is yours. It's mutual. You need to resolve it together. This is a team.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, as soon as you don't feel, when you are honest to each other and you trust each other, everything seems great. But if there are hidden stuff there, and there are a lot of problem between you that is not resolved, don't think that if you don't talk about it, nothing gonna happen. But you need to talk about it. You need to
Mm-hmm.
communicate.
That's right. That's
Yes,
right. And
beautiful.
it's an ongoing process. It's not like you ever arrive at perfection. A relationship is always growing, hopefully. So there's new layers to reveal and to work on, and just to enjoy the journey.
Yes, yes. So I'm gonna talk about your website again, safetraumahealing.com, and she has Instagram account, Safe Trauma Healing again, same thing,
Mhm,
Melissa Lapides. So if you need her help, and she has amazing courses. We already talked about it another day together. I know it's nice. She trained a lot of people, and people are getting great result from this course.
mhm.
So thank you so much for being here, Melissa. I wish you a lot of luck, and I wish God give you a lot of strength to help others as well.
Thank you so much. And I wish the same for you. I really appreciate the work that you're doing and sharing.
Thank you,
Mhm.
Melissa.